Hey, what's up, everybody? I am going to show you some cool stuff for our Shark Week. If you haven't heard it yet, check out our newest episode all about Jaws. And I talk in the episode about a couple of books that I had. I wanted to show you some of my cool collectibles. So I'm going to show you right here. Starting off, this book is called Man-Eating Sharks. And no, it's not about recipes on how to cook them. This book came out in 1976, has some of the most horrifying pictures in there. If you see that, that's from inside the shark's mouth. In a frenzy, this poor diver is gonna get tore up. And if you look down here at the bottom, his foot is actually inside of the shark's mouth after his arm's been torn open. So that dude is not having a good day. Move a little bit further along, and you see that is the diver Rodney Fox. He actually shot a bunch of footage for Jaws, but he got hit by a great white. Notice not just the scar around here, but also on his legs as well. He was not having a good day, but he actually survived and became a quite celebrated shark photographer. The rest of this book is all about the dangers and the predators, what it's like to get attacked. Lots and lots of stories about shark attacks in here. I've had this thing, I think I got that at a library when I was like 8 years old. The next one I've got is called the Jaws Log. Get a little glare off of that. And this is written by Carl Gottlieb, who actually was the screenwriter for the movie Jaws. So he took Benchley's book and he rewrote it and turned it into the Jaws that we know and love. And so there's lots of really cool stories about on-set stuff, you know. So there's your boy, the coach who started off in a boat and then ended up just a leg on the bottom of the bay. There's a makeup artist trying to add life to a the tiger shark in Jaws actually was a real shark. They packed it in ice and they flew it from Florida out to Cape Cod where they were filming and hung it up, and they were trying to get it filmed, and it was decomposing and falling apart. So this guy's here, if you see him with the spray bottle, he's trying to make it look fresh whenever it in fact was not fresh at all. And there's some pretty interesting stories in there. I used to read, man, I read this book. You see how the spine's all broken. I read this book so much when I was a kid, and funny enough, I just picked it up and started looking at it and was like, ooh, I think I'm going to read this again. So here's a nice little magazine, Marvel magazine. It's actually a comic book adaptation of Jaws 2. Quite the violent little story here. When the shark starts wrecking shop, he really does a good job. If you remember the movie Jaws 2, it was pretty violent. It's a very good serial killer story, but like, dun dun, blah, gotcha. Very, very detailed, very gory. So a lot of fun. Good reading for children. And then there's this book. I've had this book for, God, I don't know, as long as I've been alive, as long as I can remember. It was actually published in 1961. Myth and Maneater. It's long out of print. The Story of the Shark by David Kenyon Webster. And it's actually a kind of a conservationalist story. It's extremely detailed on facts about sharks, their habitats, their behaviors. It is not sensationalistic at all. I mean, although it does have some stories about some shark attacks, but it's also a bunch of tips on how to avoid shark attacks and what to do if you actually do get attacked. But one of the things about this book that made it so chilling and what was so fascinating when I was a kid, if you read that header, the author of this book knew everything there was to know about sharks, and it didn't save him. In the foreword of the book, David Webster's wife writes the foreword. He set out fishing one morning off of Santa Monica, and he was going shark fishing, and he didn't come home. And the next day, the Coast Guard found his boat, And as it says on the back of the book here, a fishing boat found the dinghy awash 5 miles offshore. 1 oar and the tiller were missing, and so was Dave. So yeah, he went out shark fishing and ended up getting eaten by a shark. And what's interesting though is because I found this book and I wanted to make this video, and I actually wanted to see if there was anything more to know about David Kenyon Webster. And it turned out he was in Band of Brothers. He was one of the paratroopers in the 101st, and in the HBO series Band of Brothers, somebody actually portrays David Kenyon Webster in the series. So he was a badass. He got like the Bronze Star and the Silver Star, and his highly decorated Army paratrooper in World War II. Got out, became a shark conservationist, and then ended up getting eaten by one. It's odd, especially if you listen to our show and we're talking about Quint and his kind of obsession and ultimate demise. So anyway, yeah, this is another one. I've read this book cover to cover, I'm gonna imagine 8 or 9 times in the last 40 years. Pulled it out of a box earlier, earlier this week, and looks like I might just be reading it again. So anyway, it's not official Discovery Channel Shark Week, but lately all they've been talking about is the megalodons and whether or not they're still alive. So this is some actually good old-fashioned shark and Jaws lore. This is 4 pieces out of a collection, although my collection for sharks is mostly on the shelves of libraries in different cities, because I spent my summers inside of libraries reading books about sharks. Yeah, so anyway, hope you enjoyed this little Believe It or Don't, and we'll see you next time.